What does it mean to be normal? Where does normalcy come from? And how can we bust the illusion with some profound truths of consciousness? Normalcy is often considered to be this one-size-fits-all standardized thing. But what is normal is always relative, and the relative specifics of normalcy from person to person will vary depending on how their consciousness has developed as nature and nurture collide through human neurophysiology and the human spirit, and how their consciousness has consequentially shaped their various aspects of personhood, which then thus create the various elements of personhood who shape who they are in the world. Everyone has a different version of normalcy. Every single person in the entire world has their own unique blueprint of who they are and how they perceive the world, how they interact with themselves in the world, and what is their own personal version of normal. Normalcy is not one standardized thing. It's a concept that has unique personal applications. And so what is normal for me is dependent on who I am as a person and a being with consciousness. And every single individual on the planet is the same way with their own unique version of normalcy. And so we can redefine what normal is by redefining the concept of normalcy and taking active steps to consciously and intentionally redefine our own personal version of normalcy, to give voice to what we perceive as our own unique aspect of what is normal for us individually. Normal means the usual, average, or typical state or condition, what is standard or expected. Every single person on the planet has their own perspective of what is standard and usual and typical and expected for them personally. And from various aspects of how our body and brain function, to the way that we spend our days, to the ways that we think and be, to the ways that we invest our time throughout our life, all these different aspects of life experience have their own unique specificities of normalcy for each individual on the planet. So let's redefine normal and know that there is no one standard way of normalcy, but rather normalcy is something that every unique person has for themselves. I have a version of normalcy. You have a version of normalcy. She has a version of normalcy. He has a version of normalcy. They have a version of normalcy. Every single person is allowed to have their own unique concept of normalcy. We can redefine normalcy by describing it as the usual, average, or typical state or condition of each individual person's life according to their uniquely developed consciousness. And so with this renewed perspective of what normalcy is, we can let go of the judgments. Because a lot of the times our brain will formulate these conclusions based on observations, which is what a judgment is. That's all a judgment is. Judgment has some negative connotations to it, but all it means is formulating a conclusion based on something we're thinking about. The human mind is a truly gifted storyteller, but we are allowed to step in consciously and express that there's no need to create stories about who other people are, what they're doing, what they're worth, or how we should be perceiving them. That is our brain's natural tendency, but we are allowed to step in with love and challenge the automated neurophysiological responses that we experience. We can start by letting go of judgments of ourselves, letting go of the stories, conclusions, and conditions about who we should be, how we should be, where we should be, what we should be, and simply create authentic, compassionate space for us to be just who we are, how we are, as we are, where we are. And then allow for that compassionate creation of authentic space to extend outward through our energy within all of our interactions in the world. And just let go of the judgments, let go of the stories, let go of the conclusions about who other people are or should be or how things should be. Letting go of the shoulds helps create space for things to be as they are. And authenticity is beautiful and miraculous and powerful. And being our unique selves is our gifting. We bring gifts to this world by being our true, unique selves. And letting go of judgments and stories and conclusions and conditions can help us be ourselves and give this energetic space to others for them to be themselves too. Our brain will go through these processes of formulating conclusions about people, and we can kind of let those dissolve, knowing that their normalcy is different from ours. And that's okay. That's allowed. Our normalcy is only what it is because of the way our consciousness is developed and the way we experience our own personhood. And everyone experiences consciousness and personhood differently. And that's part of the beauty of it. Can you imagine billions of people all having the exact same life experience? My goodness, that would be a very boring place to live. So everyone has their own version of normalcy. Everyone has their own unique consciousness, their own way of experience being a person. And so when we're perceiving someone as doing something that's strange or unique or different from what we would be doing, we can consciously take a breath and let go of the need to formulate conclusions about that person. There's no need to cast judgment. There's no need to understand other people based on the messages our mind creates. We can't understand another person's mind by staying in our own. If we want to understand someone, we'll have to explore their mind with them to explore what they're experiencing. But based on our own mind formulating conclusions here, we cannot understand what someone else is doing because they're living in a different consciousness than we are. When our brain likes to go to those spaces of creating conclusions because it's trying to understand everything, because it thinks it needs to be safe, we can just take a moment of pause and let go of that need. Maybe allow our mind to ask questions without answering them. Maybe redirect our focus, or maybe create space for an open conversation where we explore what someone else's version of normalcy is. How we move through our day-to-day life, how we conduct ourselves, how we interact with ourselves and the world around us, it all comes from a space of what's normal to us, based on the person that we are, shaped through our consciousness. And everyone has a different version of normalcy. So let's redefine normal. Let's know that it's not one standardized thing that fits all, but rather each individual person has a standardized sense of normalcy for themselves. And then use that space of knowing to have compassion for everyone else's version of normalcy. My normalcy does not need to look like anybody else's to be normal for me. And my normalcy is allowed to be totally different from the world around me. In fact, that's what makes me so beautifully unique. And I'm allowed to have my own version of normalcy. I'm allowed to be exactly who I am, where I am, how I am, what I am. It's all allowed. And every person deserves to have that allowedness. Every person deserves to have that space to just be who they are. Because from this space of personalized normalcy, we get to really embrace our true authenticity. Authenticity holds magic. So much magic can come from authenticity. And our uniqueness is our gifting. And so if there's one standardized version of normalcy where everyone has to shed their unique authenticity to fit into this standard, the world is being costed of infinite magic and gifts. And we don't want that. We don't want to miss out on the gifts of the world. We don't want to miss out on the gifts of each other. We don't want to miss out on the magic of the world and of one another. So letting go of this illusion that there's only one kind of way to be normal allows for everyone to have their own version of normalcy. And from that space, we get to be our authentic selves. We get to be our unique selves. And from that space, we discover our magic. We discover our giftings. Our authenticity is our magic. Our uniqueness is our gifts. And every single person gets to define normal for themselves. And we can allow a one-size-fits-all version of normalcy to dissolve within the world so that we can resolve to love one another unconditionally, starting by loving ourselves unconditionally, creating space for who we are, where we are, how we are, no conditions, no judgments, no formulating conclusions, no drawing these, well, blah, 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 blah. Let it all go. Just be you. Just be you. Just be unique. Be unique. Just be who you are. And from the space of unique authenticity, we get to thrive in life. We get to love who we are. We get to appreciate one another on a deeper level. We get to create space for life to be what it is. Because we don't always have choice about the specificities of our life. We do have power in how we respond to life and move through it. But the specificities of life are often beyond our power. I don't get to choose the way that my brain works. I don't get to choose the way that my body developed. I don't get to choose a lot of these things that shape my everyday experience, but I do get to choose how I respond to things. And I choose to respond by creating my own version of normalcy so that how I am is perfect and I don't need to change it and I can just be who I am. And when we do that, we create so much space in the world for our gifts and our magic to be unleashed through the miracles of our consciousness. I want you to join this conversation. I want you to be a part of this worldwide discussion. Here is a conversation starter for you. I encourage you to comment below or respond in a journal prompt or write a blog post or create your own video or have a discussion with a friend or start a conversation with a family member. I encourage you to take this discussion prompt and transform it into something that you engage with in your personal life. Conversations about consciousness matter. You matter. Your voice matters. Have a beautiful and blessed day, soul friends. The illuminating light, the foundation of love, and the infinite miracles in me see and honor the illuminating light, the foundation of love, and the infinite miracles in you. Namaste, soul friends. Blessings, and thank you for being here.